There are 4 developmental theories. First, we have Freud, where the adolescent age group is in the puberty of genital stage. In this theory, adolescents are stimulated by increasing hormone levels. With sexual energy in full force, personal and family turmoil may result. The next theory is Erikson, where adolescents are in the identity versus role confusion stage. Here, an adolescent begins to develop a sense of I, which is a lifelong process. Peers become very important at this developmental stage, and the child begins to gain independence from parents. Additionally, they begin to gain self-confidence. Another theorist is Piaget, who categorizes adolescence in the formal operation stage. The adolescent stage is characterized by forming new ideas and developing the ability to analyze situations. Adolescents begin forming abstract and futuristic thought. Additionally, they understand that both their behaviors and choices have consequences. The final theorist we have is Kohlberg. Here, the predominant stage that adolescents fall under is morality for self-accepted moral principles, social contract orientation. In this stage, the adolescent believes right is determined by what is best for the majority. There can be exceptions to the rules if there is a violation of personal welfare. The adolescent understands that laws are for mutual good and cooperation. Developmental milestones for the adolescent include the ability to use abstract thought and analysis. They also experience sexual maturation via the production of sex hormones and maturation of the reproductive system. Females will experience breast development as well as pubic hair growth. Males will have testicular enlargement, penile enlargement, and pubic hair growth. Adolescents experience characteristic physical development in addition to sexual maturation. Females have a rapid increase in height approximately a year after breast development begins. There will be an increase in fat deposits as well as the onset of menstruation, which can occur between the ages of 9 and 15. Males also have an increase in height, but it is more gradual and later than their female counterparts. Additionally, males have increase in muscle mass. For both males and females, there is increase in motor activity. Adolescents are more involved in exercise and sports than previous age groups. There is an improvement in coordination for adolescents in both fine and gross muscle groups. Adolescents have an increased cardiopulmonary capacity. Their heart becomes more efficient, although it is not mature until young adulthood. As mentioned previously, adolescents are developing concrete to abstract thinking. Both inductive and deductive reasoning begins to form. They have the ability to connect separate events together and also understand consequences later. They begin to analyze their thoughts and the world around them, while also understanding complex concepts. The vocabulary of an adolescent expands, and they are able to more readily express themselves verbally, although this is sometimes conflicted with their desire for privacy. Also, self-esteem can have a profound impact on the adolescent's ability to express him or herself. Speaking of self-esteem, identity formation is an important developmental task for this stage. An adolescent may experiment with various roles and environments until they find one that feels comfortable. There is an increased focus on appearance, behaviors, and language of friends. Many adolescents might conform to fit in with their peer groups. All this can lead to conflict between the teenager and parent. The teenager may feel the desire to rebel, test limits, and have social or familial withdrawal. We cannot underestimate the importance of peer acceptance and the many implications in transitioning from childhood to adulthood. There are many physical and sexual changes that can cause an adolescent to have insecurities and intense feelings regarding body image. In early adolescence, close friends tend to be of the same sex due to the lack of confidence with the opposite sex. In middle adolescence, there may be an increase in sexual activity, which can be related to peer pressure and self-esteem issues. In later adolescence, there is a maturity about social relationships, and teens begin to develop the ability to consider others' needs. The adolescent learns from their past in order to focus on the future. Also, in late adolescence, one develops a unique identity. Acne is prevalent among adolescents. According to the Brazilian Annals of Dermatology, it affects 89.3% of adolescents, and there is a correlation between the severity of acne and quality of life. Meaning, the more severe the acne, the worse adolescents perceive their quality of life. Acne can make teenagers self-conscious. Thus, the psychosocial impact of acne should not be underestimated. Another common issue that occurs in adolescence is body odor. As adolescents reach sexual maturity, the sweat glands become more active and surface bacteria can metabolize from these sweat glands, leading to a displeasing odor. Body odor can also cause self-esteem issues. Some helpful tips for teens are frequent showers and the introduction of deodorant or antiperspirant. For females, the onset of menses can be confusing. It is important to make sure girls have resources for questions if their parents are not an option. In a study focusing on the parental understanding of menstruation in the Journal of Pediatric and Adolescent Gynecology, mothers knew more than fathers, but were unaware of the potential consequences of medications that might be used in management. 80% of fathers were willing to discuss menstruation with their daughters, while only 52% of daughters were open to those discussions. Overall, the study found that parents had an incomplete understanding of menstruation, but a great concern for their daughters' well-being. It is important to give parents the knowledge and resources they need to guide their daughter through this transition. Additionally, it is important to note that each girl is an individual, starting her first period at a different time, with experiences unique from her mother's, sisters, or friends. Another common issue in adolescence is confusion around sexual feelings and maturation. Adolescents have changing bodies and changing feelings concurrently. They may not be able to understand or deal with all of this at once, especially if they haven't had adequate education on the matter. For example, a young male adolescent may feel that they are weird for having a wet dream despite it being a normal and involuntary occurrence if no one has discussed it with them previously. Teenagers may use sex to feel love or desired, which may lead to fear of abandonment if they are refused by a peer. Lack of self-esteem and peer pressure in this group can play a role in the teenager's decision to have sex. A national British survey of sexual attitudes and lifestyles found that most young adults cite schools as their information source for sexual education, but also report needing more information on topics related to sex. Being a parent of a teenager is no easy task, and there are several topics a parent should be prepared for. First, sexual health is obviously a pertinent topic for this age group. A parent should be aware that their teen may choose to be sexually active and should give their child reasonable resources. Adolescents might obtain inaccurate information from friends, internet sites, or social media. A parent should understand that sexual activity for adolescents is often impulsive, erratic, and unplanned because the relationships are usually short-term. As a parent, make sure your child has access to knowledge, skills, and opportunities to make responsible decisions in regarding to sex. Parents should consider contraception options with teens and include education on oral sex, as many teenagers view it as less risky, but can still lead to an STI. Parents should also be conscientious of their adolescents' mental health. As mentioned before, identity formation is a major developmental task for adolescents. When teenagers face an identity crisis, it can have serious implications. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for individuals between the ages of 15 to 24. Depression is also quite common among suicidal youth, and while suicidal gestures may appear minor to adults, Please do not overlook these signs. Parents should attempt to have an open dialogue with their teenagers and give their child opportunities to express themselves in a healthy way. With the rise of social media, cyberbullying is becoming more of an issue in adolescence. The Canadian Journal of Psychiatry studied sex differences in cyberbullying and found female adolescents to have significantly higher incidences of cyberbullying victimization than males. Victims of cyberbullying in this study had poorer mental health, more likely to have substance abuse problems, and suicide ideation. Thus, parents should be aware of their adolescents' social media accounts and activity. Substance abuse may also be a concern to parents during adolescence. Again, it is important to foster open and honest discussions between parents and teens. A study in the Journal of Adolescent Health found that parents should model the behaviors they expect of their teens. Teenagers of parents who contradict their own rules are significantly more likely to inappropriately use alcohol and tobacco products. Alcohol use contributes to fatal injuries in the adolescent population, specifically involving motor vehicle and firearms. It is also important for parents to know that alcohol is easily accessible to most teens and the implications of this. Implications also include driving. As adolescents are just beginning to mature their thought process, they can lack proper judgment while also needing to oppose authority and have independence. This can often lead to unsound driving practices. Teens tend to speed and take more chances. According to the CDC, in 2010, 9.7% reported rarely or never using a seatbelt, and almost 30% reported riding with a driver who had been drinking. Parents should encourage seatbelts, avoid distracted driving, as may occur with cell phones, music, or food, and of course, not drinking and driving. Again, parents should model these behaviors to reinforce them for their teens. While teens are experimenting with identity and image, they may be inclined to get body piercings or tattoos. This can be an impulsive decision. Adolescents should make sure they are not receiving tattoos or piercings in an unsterile setting, and preferably not by an unlicensed professional. Both have complications that adolescents should be aware of, such as infection, keloid formation, allergies to metal or dyes, scarring, and increased risk for contracting bloodborne diseases. The adolescent should be aware of caring for the piercing or tattoo site. Tanning is also popular in the adolescent age group, but teens should know that tanning is harmful to their skin and it increases risks for skin cancer. There is no such thing as a good or safe suntan. 17% of adolescent girls and 3% of adolescent boys reported using indoor tanning salons. While it can be addictive for teens, it is important to avoid this habit in both salon and outdoor settings, and make sure to always use sun protection. Finally, it seems imperative to address the idea of consent in regards to adolescents' health and safety promotion. A recent study in Worldwide Views on Evidence-Based Nursing looks at adolescent female experiences with sexual pressure, coercion, or victimization. The study had a sample size of 735 girls between the ages of 15 and 19. Half of the girls repeated being coerced into sex acts besides intercourse. 20% reported being victimized by a man in a position of power. And perhaps most shocking, 12 to 28% reported being forced into unwanted penetrative sex. Additionally, many girls reported multiple acts of similar violence and violating experiences. While adolescent males were not studied, it is important to educate your youth as a whole on what consent is and how to obtain it. To understand that consent can change throughout an encounter, and to understand that he or she should experience an event where his or her consent is violated, that there are resources and support out there to help them.